Hello, this is another edition of 3Q with Oliver, an occasional conversation I have joyously with members of our community, whether they're students, staff, faculty, whoever has a stake in our wonderful school here at LSU, School of Veterinary Medicine. Today it's a great pleasure to welcome Michael McGee, who is a Ph.D. student now in his 5th year in the lab of Dr. Weishan Huang, and his subject is T-cell receptor signaling in various models, in particular influenza infection of the lung, and the balance between an immune response that tries to clear the virus and collateral inflammation that may damage the lung. So Michael is really distinguished in representing our wonderful graduate students and our research mission, which is truly important, couldn't be more so. And he has he's been awarded, he's the recipient of an American Association of Immunologists Fellowship for career progression. So really great accolade, great distinction. It's a joy to be interviewing him this morning. So welcome, Michael. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And the first one is, could I just ask how you got to the current position? You obviously have had a distinguished trajectory to date. What inspired you to come here and do the work that you're doing now?
It's actually a very long and winding road, to put it as humbly as possible. One day my mother just pretty much kicked me out of the house and into an animal shelter to volunteer.
Right.
And I just fell in love with the veterinary medicine side there. I was always leaning more to the science than the clinical side. I was really nurtured by those people, and they put me on this long trajectory to initially go into veterinary medicine as, a DVM. But I did a master's for about 2 years here at LSU.
Right.
And I learned that I just loved the research side so much more. So I stuck with it and decided to continue to a Ph.D.
We're very pleased that you are doing so and supremely successful at that. You have been influenced by various people, and one of them is your mentor. Tell us a bit about the impact your mentor and others who have advised you have had in your trajectory. It's a long and an arduous road to complete a PhD. It's a real distinction, and it's a milestone in one's life and career. So what impact has Dr. Wang and others had on your pathway?
It's hard to really overstate just how much all my mentors have done for me, and especially Dr. Wang, who's given me so many opportunities to just expand my skills, my professional development. She's encourages me to go to conferences. Lab work is an absolutely essential part of this, but you also have to coordinate with people sometimes around the entire world, and learning how to come into contact with those people opens up so many doors professionally, and it does eventually reflect back in the research you can do in the lab, but it's so much more than that. And that's, I would say, while I've definitely benefited greatly from being able to expand my skills in the lab, I never fully appreciated just how powerful collaborations and talking to people can be. And that's something that I think became much more clear in this research setting under Dr. Wang.
Absolutely, networking is truly essential, and you've obviously done it to great impact. Tell us a bit about your science. And I am intrigued. I'm an immunologist, so I sort of get it, but break it down into some sort of bite-sized chunks, and if you wouldn't mind just elaborating on the translational impact. It has great translational impact. I'm very convinced of that. So tell us about what you're doing.
So we look at T-cell receptor signaling in influenza. Now, T-cell receptor, the TCR, that's how you very specifically recognize pathogens. So this is, in our case, this is how you recognize flu. And signals down that TCR get eventually translated into some sort of immune response. What we look at is how those signals ultimately balance this very strong pro-inflammatory response to control the virus versus the immunopathology, that collateral damage. And what we've actually found using a model that has weakened TCR signaling is that you can clear the virus just fine. The problem is you just keep going. The response keeps going. You need that extra signal strength to really eventually push the brakes on the immune response. And that's
almost counterintuitive in some ways.
In many ways it has been. Going back through the literature, it's actually funny to look 20 years ago and see just how people are kind of realizing, oh, this is different than what you would intuitively think. And it's really changed how we think about that. And of course, translational impacts. We're finding out this isn't just related to flu. This can be used for, say, cancer therapies. It's, cancer people, I've heard family members describe it as a marathon, not a sprint. So tuning down TCR signaling there might turn it into more of a marathon than sprinting. Same with flu. How we balance all these various impacts is just so fascinating and really has broad implications even just outside influenza. Those signals also impact how a memory response is formed. So that can potentially relate to vaccinations one day.
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating indeed. And you're coming to the end of your program, which is great. Many congratulations. What does the fellowship mean to you, and what are your next steps? What's on the horizon next?
Oh gosh, there's so many potential ways to go. That fellowship really helped keep me going, pushing the bounds of what I could do. Not just resources, but just getting that little bit of extra name recognition, again, opened up more doors. And I am able to speak to more people about potential opportunities in the future, maybe applying it outside just flu. I really like looking at the lungs. It's just such a fascinating system. Next potential steps, there could be so many. I'm very interested in doing a postdoc. I've been looking at a few places, just continuing on this path.
Well, I'm sure you'd be a great asset to wherever you go next, and we're thrilled that you've been with us and contributed to our ecosystem of research, and the graduate students are truly important to me and to the school, so thank you for everything you've done over the last 5 years. Many thanks, Michael. Enjoyable to speak to you.